Welcome to Prasad Pod. I'm your host, Jarrell Prasad.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Campbell.
Hi, Paul. How's it been going?
Hey, going well. How you doing, bro?
Doing good. We got a lot of views last time um, when we did our Welcome 2025 section. A lot of positive feedback from our XRP talk of XRP possibly going from 175 to $300 here when they flip the switch. So we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the episode. Meantime, we're going to go over a lot of different current topics that we got going on. You want to start us off, Paul?
Yes, sir. All right, let me share my screen real quick.
All right, I got you.
You can see?
Yeah.
Right. So, we got 4 topics for you today. The first topic we wanted to touch on is something that I think is extremely important and pretty much never gets talked about. And as you can see, how long has Trump been in office? For 6 days now, and they've already found 80,000 out of the 300,000 missing migrant children suspected of being human trafficked. This is I wanted to start. This is a super heavy topic on a Sunday afternoon and everything to start off with, but I think it's really important to shed light on this because it never gets reported on. What and the argument that people make about the border is, okay, these people are trying to come here to make a better lives for themselves and all this sort of thing, which you understand the humanitarian element, of what's going on. But really, whatever the marketing is, there's something else going on. And I mean, it's an open secret, I guess you could call it. The human trafficking industry is more profitable than even the drug trafficking industry, the weapons trafficking industry. And that's why you never hear about it, right?
Yeah.
And is Trump, his first time around from 2016 to 2020, arrested more human traffickers than Obama and George Bush and Bill Clinton combined. And you can see the amount of arrests. I don't have a graph for that, but I think I've shown it on our previous podcast, which you can look through for some of our older ones. But one of the reasons why I kind of went from being a Trump skeptic to full blown MAGA is because of his stance on human trafficking and the results that he got. Even here in little old Delaware back in 2018, there was a human trafficking operation that was busted up around the Dover area. That was something like 100 people got arrested for running a drug and human trafficking smuggling operation, even in little old Delaware back then. So it affected, the area where I live. And this is something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah. People don't realize that, the human trafficking situation is pretty bad. When they're talking about people coming across the border illegally, it's not just, families seeking a life. It's people trafficking children and women as, sex slaves or modern day slaves. And it's pretty bad. And people are saying all these bad things about Trump, but look at the positivity that's coming out. 80,000 out of 300,000 missing children that were being suspected of trafficking are rescued. That's something positive out of it. That's the side of the news that you don't see the mainstream media reporting on. You don't see them talking because the left really hates Trump, and they're making everything that he does seem like it's for evil purposes, but it's not. It's really helping people. 6 days in, and you saved 80,000 lives. That's crazy.
And it begs the question, well, if they could find these kids this easily, why didn't the Biden administration do anything about it? Because why is human trafficking and child abuse and modern day slavery, why is that a partisan issue?
Yeah, because somebody's profiting off of it. If you look the source of everything, somebody's profiting off of it, and people are being paid to look the other way. People are being paid to pass laws, so other people can keep getting away with it, so their business can thrive, so they can continue to exploit these people's lives, so that just for a buck. And it's crazy.
Yeah, uh, and it's not just what these were presumably children that were going to be used for, well, unspeakable things, right? And we all know what those are. I don't have to say it explicitly, but like the level of evil that's going on at the border, it's more than just bringing in, the fentanyl problems, the heroin problems. These are, if anybody has seen Sound of Freedom, they know the subject matter, or even if you haven't seen the movie, you know what that movie is about. And this is a real problem, and it's been going on since we've had this. Well, really, there's significant evidence that the war on drugs, that's the marketing aspect of really. It's not a war on drugs. If they wanted to stop the drugs from coming over the border, they could. And Trump is doing that. He's labeled the cartels as terrorist organizations, which means we can go wherever we want all over the world. We can go wherever we want to stop these people. And that's, you can't, mess around or play nice with these cartels, with these human traffickers. They have no regard for human life. They're the worst people of the worst people, and they're allowed to do these things, is my, assertion. Because if we really wanted to stop this stuff, it would have been stopped a long, long time ago. And I think if you were going to ask me why the Biden administration would allow this to happen, you can do the argument. You can make an argument and say, oh, it's just incompetence. Like they're focusing on other things. They got a war in Israel. They got a war in Ukraine that, they need to, administer or whatever, attend to. But really, there's hundreds of thousands of people working at the government. They could stop this if they wanted to. And now, thankfully, that Trump is back, they are stopping the worst scourge that in the world. And all we can do is really offer our support to ICE, to the people going in and finding these children. I would rather that we pause all immigration for a certain amount of time in order to find these poor children who don't have social security numbers, who've never met their parents, who've never been hugged, and it just breaks your heart knowing the kind of lives that these poor kids go through. Or, because some of these kids are literally bred into this. And some of them are kidnapped, and then shipped off, like, we see in movies and this sort of thing. But a lot of them are literally bred for this purpose. And it's, if you do some research into the topic, it has to be stopped. This can't be allowed to continue anymore. And I'm really, really thankful that my prayers are being answered and Trump is doing what he said he was going to do. And we're going to stop these poor, these poor children from being abused. We're going to stop the
so far, Trump's making good on all his promises, which is really good.
Yep. And so I wanted to cover that because this is, what we wanted to see happen, to get started. Promises made, promises kept. And that goes right in line with Trump just enacted a 90-day pause on all foreign aid. I think he is putting in a stop to any migration for a period of time. I didn't want to include that because I'm not sure if that's true yet, or if there's some sort of executive order that went along with that. If put it down in the comments, because I'm still he's signed like 200 executive orders or something crazy. So trying to get through all the information, it takes a lot of time to read through it. But another important thing that we're doing is stopping foreign aid. It always blows my mind. We give $2 billion. Just, you pick a random country in the world and just type in foreign aid. You'd be amazed how much money, and it's our tax dollars that go to. We send $2 billion. Last I checked, it was $2 billion. Could be higher, to Egypt every year. Why do we do that? What's the point? And that's just off the top of my head. there's hundreds of other countries we just give money to. There
Yeah.
are no countries give money to the United States.
No countries, yeah, that's crazy. We give billions of dollars to all these countries every single year, and yet our taxes just keep going up. We keep paying into all this. There's nothing being done as far as actual programs to help people. The programs that actually produce fruit and um, show significant benefit to people, they're being cut. And all these crazy diversity inclusion programs are being boosted when and then they're sending money all to these other countries. And the normal average everyday person like you and I, we're struggling, you know.
Yeah, think about what $2 billion could do for inner city schools in Baltimore, or it could do for the roads in Philadelphia, or name any city, name any place. This money should be used to help United States citizens because it is our money. Foreign aid is our tax money that's going out the door and not used for Americans. Now, the why we do that, well, everybody needs to get paid because that's how the octopus maintains itself, right? The Federal Reserve prints the money, which decreases the average citizen's wealth. The super rich get more rich because the money is, when you print it into a currency into oblivion like they're doing now with inflation, the richer get richer and the poorer get poorer, right? Because if you have the biggest pile of money and it accrues interest, that's how you make your money. If you have very little money and it accrues interest, well, you're not going to get as much money, right? These very basic concepts. But we need to pause all this foreign aid because ultimately and I think we've shown evidence of that on our pods before, is that it's basically just a slush fund. Foreign aid, all of the environmental stuff with climate change. It used to be global warming, then it was global cooling, now it's climate change. There's no settled science on climate change either, but I'm just using it as an example of things that need to be stopped. Hey, we all want to live in a nice environment, but if you really think that farmers are the number one problem with the climate and not these mega corporations that, the United States is one of the best when it comes to stopping, carbon emissions. But China puts out 20 times what we do in carbon emissions, but none of our senators or politicians, none of them are going to critique China because that's where their money comes from because, they're all bought and paid for. It's the same with this foreign aid stuff. Whatever they tell you the marketing ploy for it is, there's somebody's getting paid for it. Oh, we just want to help out. We don't want Egypt to attack Israel, or we don't want Egypt to attack, whatever, one of their neighbors that they're disagreeing with. We better give them $2 billion. I don't care. Like, we have enough problems here stateside going on, with the violence in our schools, with the just total incompetence with our schools, not teaching, kids. 67% of Philadelphians read at a 6th grade level. The stats that come out with how poor our schools are, and it just goes to show that the money isn't getting used properly. Well, then we better cut it off and figure out why it's not getting used properly. That's why I'm so excited about the Department of Government Efficiency.
The Doge.
The Doge. This is why we need to stop this foreign aid. We need to, end the Department of Education. We need to end these ridiculous ecological programs that don't work. They're all slush funds and they need to stop. So if we need to pause them until they're cleaned up, then so be it. And specifically with the foreign aid, when I heard we're giving, we give money to every single country. No country gives any money to the United States. So why is our money being used for, and tell me exactly, in Egypt, we give them $2 billion a year. What good has that caused the American people? I'm sure it's good for the Egyptian people and their government and their coffers, but what help does it do to us? You and me, Jarrell, have talked about the issues with, the social programs and the issues that social workers deal with. If good people, if we put properly allocated our resources as taxpayers towards helping people, making better orphanages, having more social programs, not from like a bigger government standpoint, but actually teaching people to be financially literate, teaching them what a credit score is. These all could be used to help the American people. And if it's our money that's being used for something other than that, I want it to be over with right away.
Exactly. It's crazy. It's like so many of our youth and regular people just don't know how the world works. They don't know how credit works. A lot of young people they don't know when they take money out for student loans. They don't know you have to pay it back. They think college is free, and it's not. And and then they direct their anger towards the student loan companies, and it's not even the student loan companies, it's the colleges that are jacking up the price. So, I mean, we could go into that that's a topic for another time. But, yeah, with the Doge coming in, we're hoping that, they really cut costs and spending. I've worked in the government for 12 years, and I know that they misappropriate funds, and, seeing firsthand what that can do. And a lot of it is they think that, when they get these funds allocated to them, they think that if they spend it, that they'll keep getting more the next time that it comes around for them to allocate funds. So, if they have a surplus, instead of sending it back, they'll go out and spend it on stupid crap, so that they can keep getting that same budget every year. And that's really wasteful, and it's fraud, waste, and abuse. But it happens, and it happens at every level of government. And I'm sure a lot of these programs, they all started out with the best interest at heart, but at some point in the line, it turned, and it stopped being about doing the good work, and it started being about how much profit, or who can line their pockets. And it's where we're really hoping that Trump steps in and the Doge steps in, and they really put an end to all of this, because it's really hurting the average everyday person. It's hurting the middle class. It's hurting the lower class. Only people that are profiting it off are the super rich. So,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, think about it. If the money keeps getting printed, so it has less value, but everything is a for-profit corporation, you have to have, like to your surplus example earlier, you always have to spend the money. The government, the way that it's set up and with the way that our money works, is you can never just be, move with this, at the level of inflation, because the inflation happens so high, you need to grow and constantly be growing. And eventually, with this runaway, crony capitalism that we don't have real capitalism. I don't even know what you would call it. It's some weird blend between communism and capitalism that we're looking at. I've had so many debates about communism versus capitalism. I'm like, what's the difference really at this point? Like we can argue about the principles of, both ideologies, but when it comes down to the, looking how it functions, in these human endeavors, we're splitting hairs here. There's homeless people everywhere. And so there's not enough money for people to buy houses. And the government, the way it's set up, with the way the money is set up, is you always have to spend, which means they need to get more and more and more. Our taxes keep going up, but we make more money now, but we're unable to afford a home. I remember back 20 years ago, if you had a job that would pay you like $80,000, that's like an amazing amount of money. Yeah, well, that was 20 years ago. With the rate of inflation, now you need $140,000 to make 80,000 20 years ago. It's, if adjusted for the rate of inflation. So these, and we're going to talk about the money to end this. We're not just bringing up money for no reason. It all permeates through it all. But I was very, very happy to hear that we're stopping the foreign aid. There's 3 countries we're not stopping the foreign aid to. It's Lebanon, Israel, and I think Syria. But don't quote me on that. But I thought it was very strange that we're stopping all foreign aid, but obviously, they're never going to stop foreign aid to Israel. But like the other two, I was kind of surprised. I was thinking like, why? There must be some reason why Lebanon and Syria aren't their foreign aid didn't stop. That so sorry, I don't have an answer for you right now. I'm trying to find one, but that's something I wanted to call out.
Probably because they've been bombed to crap
Yeah.
recently, and it looks bad if you just cut the foreign aid.
After you bomb them, yeah, right.
Yeah, after you bomb them. So that's why.
Have you ever seen like the meme? It's showing two sets of rockets firing at each other, and it's like my tax dollars, also somehow my tax dollars. That's what's going on, and that's a lot of this foreign aid is that these countries just weaponize themselves and then they attack each other. Now America has to then send troops over, and now we can make more money because the military-industrial complex has been activated. So let's stop all foreign aid. Let's stop the foreign wars. Let's stop these bad programs that are sucking up our money and doing nothing with it. And now there's a completely different topic, really hard pivot. I can't really figure out a transition, no pun intended, into this, topic. Trump said he made it an executive order. There are only two genders, male and female. Now this is a hot topic, and what's funny is 4 years ago, this would have probably, if we talked about this, gotten us in a lot of trouble. Now we're actually allowed to talk about these things.
Yeah.
I thought we had free speech all along, but for a while it got a little dicey.
That's crazy. About 20 years ago, this wouldn't even have been a topic to discuss in a major political forum. Oh, how many genders are there? There's only two. There's only ever been two, and there only ever will be two.
And and we've talked a great deal about like the transgender phenomenon, or movement, whatever you want to call it, this progressive movement. It's and there was even though I don't agree, I think there's been a few people that have I've been watching videos about this topic. And one of the things that I always kind of thought was really strange, like why this issue always got such a push, so to speak. Like, I don't know what else to call it, but why was this issue of all things brought up so prevalently? And like you talked, and it just got pushed into like the zeitgeist of our, overall consciousness. It became a hot topic to talk about. And I never really understood why. Like, it kind of dovetailed in with like the feminist movement, where you talk to people, well, what are our gender roles and these sort of things. And yeah, you can always have a philosophical conversation. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And hey, I've met really boss females who have more or less submissive husbands, and vice versa, and everything in between, where people are on like a equal partnership level with their relationship, and mostly though the men lead the relationship. And you find out what's right for you. That there's nothing wrong with kind of discussing gender roles. But when it comes down to it, like, there's two genders, right? Like, you can talk about being in, have the dynamics of how people interact with each other. But at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a fox self or a Zer or any of these 100 million different ridiculous pronouns that they come up with. And it's all about the psychological impact of it. It comes back to MK Ultra, and that might be shocking to some people. But if you distort and obfuscate, it demoralizes the population. If you can't even tell me what a woman is, then how can we get anything done from a collaborative element to move forward with lowering our taxes or completing a common goal, right? So, and really the spiritual element to this, because we like to talk about that a lot, is the devil he can't create, but he can pervert, and he can destroy and lie. So saying that there's more than male and female is a perversion of creation. So the philosophical, or whatever, the ideological reasoning behind it is that, as we've talked about several times, there's a lot of really bad people in high up places that want to push this sort of narrative, because even if they get one or two people disagreeing, well, those are two people disagreeing with each other, as opposed to going after the common enemy, which is your government, your oligarchy, the ruling class that is trying to rob you blind and teach you lies. And people will say, oh, this is bigoted. No, it's not. I don't hate anybody. I hate the sin, not the sinner. We're all fallen. We all have our issues that we're dealing with mentally, spiritually, physically. whatever it is. And things, if I was, running into a burning house and I didn't know the house was burning and on fire and about to explode or whatever, if you didn't tell me and warn me that I was going down a wrong path by entering into that doorway into the exploding house, that yeah, I would hope that you would, I know that I would warn you, even if it upset you. Oh, there's a lot of shiny things in this house. Yeah, because it's about to explode. Get out of that house. We need to take care of each other and warn each other not to fall into these pitfalls. And now more than ever, there's so many people that, I mean, think about it, like all the problems that we deal with on a daily basis, all the stress we're put under with this modern day of life. I wouldn't surprise me that people would get so sad and confused at their life that they would start to question the very fundamental biology that that they inhabit.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
Let me ask you something. How many genders does a whale have?
Right. Two.
How many genders does a monkey have?
Two.
Can there be more than that for them, for those animals?
If you neuter a dog, does he become a female dog or just a neutered dog?
No, he's still a male dog.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's that's the reality of it. And people need to wake up to the fact that you know uh, they're being manipulated on a spiritual level to think otherwise. And that's exactly what the devil does. The devil comes in and manipulates you and twists the truth and try to make reality his own. That's how you destroy society. That's how you collapse a civilization. That's how you pervert the word of God. And we come from a strong Judeo-Christian background. Paul and I, and we're not trying to inflict our religious ideals on you, but we're just saying that you can't go out and change what has always been and the truth of something just because you believe something in your mind. I mean, I could say I identify as a trillionaire, a rich white man. I could say I identify as Trump. Does that mean I get to stroll into the White House and pretend to be president? No, it doesn't.
Yeah. And yeah, it's. I just want to call out though, it's Christian background, not Judeo-Christian, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I
Christian.
don't know. It's like even that is like you're just trying to make a point, and even that's like we get so much of that. But yeah, saying to our viewers, if you say Judeo-Christian, that's like saying I'm um, um, you know, a Muslim Mormon. It's just
Well,
like
I'm just saying because it stems from Judaism, like Christianity originally
well,
stems from Judaism.
well,
So that's where you get the Judeo-Christian. But yeah, you're right. It's just Christian, and
but
because we give up the Judaism part and we fully accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
but it's funny that you should call that out on this topic because um, uh, uh, there's a lot of Jewish writers who have said that the Talmud defines 7 different genders. Now that you can go to a conservative Jew, a rabbi, and he'll say, "No, that's not true at all. It's a translation thing. It has to do more grammatical things than anything." But a lot of the people who push this transgender thing are Jews who misunderstand their own Bible, the Talmud, and say that this is where it comes from. And there's so many in academia and politics and in the media that's why this ideology or this idea gets pushed. We always want the new trendy progressive thing because it's the progressive movement. Well, if it's a progressive movement, that means it always has to be moving even too far to a place that we don't even want it to go to. But yeah, and just to put a bow on it, the transgender people make up 0.02% of the population, which is statistically zero. There's more 7-foot, people than there are, transgender, basically, so it's, statistically, I mean, and if that's wrong, comment in the, please put it in the comments. It's an unbelievably low number. And, I know people who have decided to go into that lifestyle and, where I love them as friends or as family members, I don't support that. And, I've give my opinion respectfully because it's their life, but I just think it's a path to destruction. And, I'm glad that we're now moving in the right direction to end this sort of, conversation that never really needed to be had anyway. And it's
So
finally ending.
speaking of, just, the destructive path, I'm going to share a story I know of a transgender friend of mine. I'm not going to mention who, but um, it's a male that transitioned to a female, and he suffered a lot of sexual trauma from family members as a young child, and that inherently confused him. And that would make him definitely feel like he doesn't understand his own gender. And when you're being sexually abused by, people that's the same gender, you could feel like the opposite gender. And that's a lot of where a lot of these people who are, subject to this, it's a common pattern that, their lives weren't perfect before, they're feeling a lot of trauma and abuse, and they're just trying to find out who they are in this world, because when uh, it just goes back to the human traffickers. A lot of the uh, people in human trafficking now are victims themselves who are victimized, and then they're coached into it. Like, people think that human traffickers are male. No, they're like females who've been trafficked, and that's the only life they know. So they're perpetuating the cycle and putting it on other people. And there's just a lot of hurt and damaged and depressed and abused individuals that, and a lot of them are in prominent positions in like society, and they may make up 0.2% of the population, but they're in high positions enough so their voices are heard the loudest, and they have a lot of other people speaking up for them, saying that their delusions are right, but in reality they are delusions, because they don't know for themselves who they are. They can't make up what gender they are. And I feel really bad for my friend. I don't want to put him on the spot. um, but if that you turn to God and you turn to Jesus, that'll be the answers that you need right there to let you know, hey, this is the way I was made. I was made wonderfully and fearfully in the image of the Lord, who knit my hairs, who knows the number of hairs on my head, and who knit me together in my mother's womb. God doesn't make mistakes. And, to think that God made a mistake for you, and, made you the wrong gender because somebody else inflicted their idea of what they think on you, it's just wrong. So basically, what I'm saying is, you know, be aware, because these people, they may be loud and they may be vulgar and but they're hurting inside. They're victims, and it's warping reality, and it's affecting children, because other children are starting to think, oh, well, if this person could be that, that might be the norm, and it's not the norm. It's an outlier for that person, and they're making you feel like, hey, that's a normal function, but it's not a normal function.
Yeah, and it's not what happens to us in our life that defines us. It's how we respond to it and how we overcome our circumstances. And we can do all things through Christ who delivers us. So very well said. All right, and now I got one more topic, which seems to be a popular one here, is XRP. So another brutal transition. I'm sorry, we're just moving on. We got to hit all these points because we're on a time crunch here. But something that we've talked about quite a bit is XRP and the new financial system. Some people call it the quantum financial system. I don't know, whatever it is you want to call it. But something very important happened this week, which was Trump signed an executive order to create a strategic crypto reserve. Okay, so and this is something that's really important. Sign an executive order strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. As the crypto industry, you know, he wants America to foster the crypto industry and make America the crypto capital of the world. Notice that he keeps saying crypto and not just Bitcoin. This is very important, okay? So the U.S. through Operation Choke Point 2.0, that's the, the code name or whatever for the SEC's war on crypto that has been going on since 2020, since the Biden administration took over. This is going to come to an end because we want to foster cryptocurrencies. We want to include them in the Treasury Department for digital assets, plural, not just Bitcoin. And we need a national stockpile of digital assets. Okay, assets, plural. It's not a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Bitcoin will, in all likelihood, be included in it. But what do we think would be the most likely for Trump to pick? Well, remember when we showed you this picture of Ripple? Remember, Ripple works with XRP. Their CEO and chief legal officer meeting with Trump. Okay. Trump is all about promoting pro-America crypto. Eric Trump recently said there will be no capital gains tax on cryptocurrencies. There'll be a 30% tax on Bitcoin because it's not American. It's just, if Bitcoin is, it's just Bitcoin. It's like saying gold is American. Like, okay, there is gold in America, but you can't say all gold is American.
Yeah, so XRP is American currency because it's created by Ripple Labs, which is an American-based company, and no capital gains tax on that. Could you imagine people owning, like Donald Trump owns $5 million worth of XRP because that was donated to him. So could you imagine $5 million of XRP? And XRP goes to $10,000, $100,000, and he doesn't have to pay any capital gains tax on that. That's like, over $1 billion there, and you're not paying any tax on it. This will essentially make new trillionaires, this currency.
And think about what the banks are going to do with it. So now the American crypto companies are Ripple, Solana,
Hedera,
and Cardano. Okay, those are the top four. So if we're going to include, which, good for them. Like, here's the thing is, I just want a level playing.
XLM as well, Stellar Lumens.
Yeah, with Stellar too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But listen, I obviously have, am an XRP maximalist. I don't think anybody would surprise with me saying that. That's the horse that I'm betting on. But if you have a lot of the other American cryptocurrencies, that's fine. We have a lot of different types of vehicles you can buy in the United States. You can get Chevrolet, Dodge, Ford, Subaru, whichever one you want, you can buy. You should have the ability to choose which one you use. And not only like from a retail standpoint, somebody like Trump who has 5 million XRP, or, there's some, I'm sure there's some regular citizens out there that have millions that were buying it back in 2013 or whatever. We've seen the wallets online, and there are like something like 500 wallets with over 1 million XRP in them. So, and good for you, that's awesome. But I
wish I don't have 1 million XRP. I wish I did.
Yeah, that'd be great, But what I'm getting at is the banks, when they buy in, like once the legal clarity comes, and we know exactly how to manage this stuff, and the crypto task force that Trump has put into place comes up with legal guidelines. Hopefully it doesn't have to just get ramrodded through with an executive order or some judicial decision. It can be like the Congress drafts the bill, the Senate ratifies it, and then Trump signs it, or I'm using the wrong language, but you know what I'm saying. And then boom, then the banks can buy in. So if, Johnny, retail investor, has, so many XRP, he's going to be very, very happy. Imagine what the banks are thinking and salivating over, thinking, wait a minute, I can buy something and use it for payments and I don't have to pay taxes on it if its value goes up. I think the super big whales, the banking institutions, the investment institutions, the hedge funds, the billionaires, they're looking at this and saying, well, wait a minute, this is how I'm going to make even more money. And us who are smart enough, like you, our audience members, we're smart enough to start researching XRP and understanding what it is. Once the real money gets in and starts buying all the XRP up, that price shock that's inevitably coming, because they've got the deepest pockets in the world, so they're going to want as much of this stuff as they can get. Eventually, it's going to run out, and it's all going to get bought up. The day that happens, it's going to go to a price that we can't. We talk about $175, $350 on the last podcast, and I don't like to say this too much because you want to kind of keep your head in the clouds but your feet on the ground. Like if it is used for the derivatives market, if it is used for tokenization of all assets, like Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, has talked about using cryptocurrency for, we really don't know what the price, how high it could go, because you're talking about all the money. And, before, when you would speculate on how high can the price go, it's always nice to look at big numbers, but really there's no reason for that to happen unless there is a legitimate catalyst like the United States government implementing it and giving it these sort of leg ups and these opportunities, to perform the way we think it can perform. And that's what Trump has been doing. And so keep an eye on this, just like we are. We're going to continue to bring you the news regarding XRP. But the amazing thing about it is that what I thought was going to happen is there was going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And eventually, after a couple of years, they were going to start rolling in the new one. I didn't think that they were going to say, no, right off the bat, America first crypto. Boom. No taxes on it either, on capital gains. Holy
yeah. And that's pissing off the Bitcoin maxis, which are, the Bitcoin supporters who are just, all in on Bitcoin, and they don't care if anybody else profits as long as the Bitcoin goes up and they have to profit. So a Bitcoin or a crypto strategic reserve currency, helps all of crypto and not just Bitcoin. And but he signed the executive order, and it wasn't to create the strategic reserve, is to create the team into looking into how to create the strategic reserve. So you still got to understand that it's going to take some time to set up. It's going to take a couple months. So, if you're all in on the XRP like us, just give it a little time and, just hold strong, hodl your bags, and you'll realize that the SEC still has to drop their lawsuit against Ripple. That's another thing. And then once the strategic reserve goes into effect, then these ETFs are going to start getting approved. Once the ETFs are getting approved, then Ripple's going to IPO, and that's also going to affect the price of XRP. So, you still have a lot of solid real world things to look into. So, 3 out of a couple of the things, 3 out of basically like the 10 things we're looking to happen actually happened. Gary Gensler is out of the SEC. Trump is president, and he signed an executive order pertaining to a strategic crypto reserve. So those 3 things we're really looking forward to, and they have happened. So just hold strong. If you're not in at this point, it's still not too late. You can still continue to buy, and I say continue to buy XRP whilst the price is under $5. Load up as much as you can, because eventually, like we said in our last video, you're gonna get priced out. Once it flips, it's gonna flip like that, and it's gonna be $150 or more, and you're not gonna want to pay $150 for something that you don't know if it's going to go up or not. But, all of us strong XRP supporters, we know it's going to go higher than that. But the average retail Joe, they're not going to know. So they're going to think, oh, $150, I can't afford that. I'm not going to buy any of it. I'll just put my money somewhere else.
Yeah. And all of the points, arbitrarily picking 10 points, that's actually kind of true. It is like when you list all the things that you want to happen, it's like 10 things, and yes, it's like 3 of them are done already. And we didn't expect these fundamental events to happen for years, and they're happening within the first week of Trump coming into office. So this is really, really, really good, and there's still time. I just wanted to say, if people are here just for the crypto stuff and they're trying to understand what's the deal with the Bitcoin people. Like Bitcoin was originally set up to be the new money and to be the world's payment system. But it's, the technology is too old. It can't scale. It's still really expensive and slow. There was one really cringy video where Trump was at a bar somewhere trying to make a payment with a Bitcoin, and it took like 15 minutes, or it took a long time. He's standing there waiting for it to settle.
Over an hour.
Yeah, and typically, it can take an hour. If you're just trying to pay groceries, it can take an hour for that payment to go through. And also, like, it can't scale up to support all world payments. There's not enough Bitcoin. So it's unfortunate that the original idea of Bitcoin, which was to be the new money, to be the reserve world asset, and to foster payments, well, the technology wasn't there yet. And a lot of the early Bitcoin engineers saw the limitations with Bitcoin, so they started to work on XRP. Originally, it was called OpenCoin, then they changed the name to XRapid, and then they shortened XRapid to XRP. And OpenCoin was Ripple's original name, but that company, either dissolved or went under, and then but the XRP had already been created, so then Ripple became a company, and then they bought up all the XRP, and that's kind of how we got here. But the maxis, the Bitcoin maxis, which is short for maximalists, they want Bitcoin. Now they've rebranded Bitcoin's value as being a store of value rather than a payment system. Well, it was originally supposed to be a payment system, but it can't do it. They know it. It's a dirty secret with Bitcoin. So they rebranded and said, no, it's a store of value. Well, if Bitcoin's a store of value, ultimately, like Jack Dorsey said earlier this week, then it's a failure. It's worth a lot of money. A lot of people made a lot of money off of it. Good for you. The ideas and that it, instituted and, challenged people with are very important. But at the end of the day, it can't scale. Well, XRP can. You can have 1,500 transactions per second, and that's just, and they can scale up from there at little to no cost, like, basically, almost free for the 10,000th of a penny that it costs to send any amount of money anywhere. So the Bitcoin maximalists are upset that they're being replaced by, XRP. And hey, that, I'm sure that when the Ford Model A was the only car, eventually, the Ford F-150 was built. So if you were a prospector, in 1930s, not prospector, but if you were just somebody who could have the difference between buying a Model A Ford and a Ford F-150 on today's roads, what would you do? You'd buy the Ford F-150. Even back in the 1930s when the cars were brand new, you would buy the Ford F-150, right? If you could buy a modern day truck. And that's the idea, that the difference between Bitcoin and XRP is Bitcoin was the first, it was the original, it was really important, but it can't do the things that it couldn't keep up with the time, so to speak. Would you want to buy a tube TV, or do you want a 70-inch flat screen 4K TV?
Yeah.
So, and it's sad to see the Bitcoin maxis who led the way with this libertarian movement are, we don't need the government. We have Bitcoin. We don't need their money. Now we need the government to use Bitcoin, and work with the Federal Reserve. I need more. So it's totally been turned on its head from what it originally was, which was this libertarian movement. And now the adults in the room work for Ripple, and the government is going to use XRP for payments and as a store of value. And ultimately, that's my thesis on why XRP is going to be so successful moving forward. And we're seeing all the things that we want to see. And it's very, very exciting that it's taken such a short amount of time.
Yeah. Well, that's our time for this episode. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We gained a lot of new followers on TikTok, so thank you for that. We got some new followers on YouTube. Continue to watch this full episode on YouTube at youtube.com/PrasadPod. We'll be back with the latest episode. I'm your host, Paul. You're the host. I'm your host, Jarrell Prasad, signing off, and Paul Campbell, and we'll see you in the next one.